The next step of the program, we have our technical specialist in modern work. So that's the collaboration tools of which CoPilot fits in. And our technical specialist, Anna Dockum, is going to come and join us to drill in a little bit about the differences in some of the copilots. So Microsoft has a very large marketing engine, and sometimes we don't do ourselves favors in the branding. So there are about, what was it, Microsoft team, 50-some, 60-some copilots that are out there. So we have CoPilot that means a lot of different things. And you may choose some of these things for particular reasons and such. Because there's a CoPilot Studio, there's CoPilot Chat, there's M365 CoPilot, there's CoPilot in Word, in PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, and so on. So Anna's going to drill into a little bit about the things so that you have kind of a primer on the vocabulary and capabilities, so that when you're trying to solve a problem, you can connect to the right resource to help you do that. We're getting her all set up here. Good? All righty, take it away.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Scott. And thank you all for being here today. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate everybody's time and attention making it out here this morning. I'm super excited to go over some of the tool set that we have here today, showing you all how I use the tools and how I interact with them on the day-to-day, and also getting rolling our sleeves up to see what they're like in action. To start off, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I would like to share a little bit about my relationship with the AI tools personally, and how I've seen them evolve throughout the past 2 years. I started working at Microsoft 2 years ago, which is kind of crazy to say, and I was fortunate enough to actually start straight out of school. And I share that because my claim to fame will actually be that I have never had a day in my professional career working without CoPilot. So it's been quite the journey, and I share that because I feel that I am at the advantage, because I have never had to relearn habits or working habits. It was fascinating to go in and see that, you know, people actually read their email. That's wild. They don't just get summaries. So it's been really interesting over the past few years seeing how they've transformed our daily working lives, but I also feel that the hardest part is the adoption piece. I don't have to rebuild habits, but I understand that the majority of folks do. So how are we relearning how to work, and how are we applying these tools in our day-to-day? We're going to be beaten with the new term of agents. We're going to learn a lot about them today, especially in some of the breakout sessions. There's a vast variety of what agents can do, ranging from your simplest agents that are out there just to query information, to task-oriented agents that are here to help automate things, to run completely autonomous. So when you're looking at your use cases and you're identifying what tool might be right for me, know that there is a vast ecosystem of tools out there, and dependent on your use case is going to depend on the complexity of the tool that you might need to help complete it. And Microsoft's ecosystem is complex, and it's a matrix, and every day I wake up and I'm still trying to figure out where exactly who is who in the zoo. I primarily focus and spend most of my time in that top box, learning about how folks interact with CoPilot in the office space, in the office suite. And again, like Scott was sharing earlier, we don't do ourselves any favors with branding when we're calling everything a CoPilot. So it's really important to know what tool you're sitting in, what flavor of CoPilot you're interacting with. I'll show you this here in the demo as well, as far as where I interact to find the best answer, depending on what task is at hand. This is one of my favorite quotes from Satya. I love following him on LinkedIn and seeing all of his, where's his mind at, where are our leaders going. And I really resonate here because when we're talking about AI, the number one thing that comes up is trust in AI, trust in the tools. That becomes even more important here in the government space. Working in the public sector, supporting states. I support the Eastern United States, so I work with a lot of different state governments. And trust has become one of the biggest topics that we all talk about. When we're looking at Microsoft's approach to AI and how we're developing these tools, these are our 6 foundational pillars that every decision we make, we keep these pillars in mind. There's a fantastic transparency report out there. It's about 42 pages. You can use CoPilot to summarize it. But it actually goes into detail about what we're doing as we're developing in our new models. What are we thinking about? Why we made the decisions that we did. And so it's really interesting to read and learn the why. So after the presentation, be on the lookout for that if you're of interest. But the most important things to note for us in the room is that, one, your data is your data to control, maintain, and put policy around. By default, we are putting in play a lot of regulations as far as control and compliance, especially in the GCC space, the government community space. The tools that we launch in GCC, Microsoft has done the legwork for us. They're with all those regulations, and sometimes that's why we see that they take time. But all good things take time, is what I found. So really, when you're looking at these, they're secure by design, and they're secure by default. So we are giving you a tool here that you can rest assured your organization has governance and policies around. You can create your own governance as well. And then when we're really thinking at CoPilot, I know that we have gone in deep here this morning covering this, and I think Jeremy brought it up on the panel too, of treating CoPilot truly like your intern. And that's what I've learned most about the 2 years, is that, it took me even with my intimate relationship with technology, it took me about 6 months to learn how to talk to this thing. And it took me about a year to really get my intern to start doing some tasks for me. So I say that because keep in mind, as you move to adopt, and you may or may not have had the advantages I've had, to not get frustrated with it. It's not autopilot. Sometimes it takes multiple tries to get a good task. Kind of like how with an intern, if you give it good instructions, it will give you great results. So as you're going through and you're learning to prompt and you are adopting the tool, remember that, and remember that sometimes the first try is a great place to start, but it's usually around the 10th that I've found it's really taken it to the next level. Before I hop into the tooling, let's look at CoPilot, how it's comprised and how it's made up. At a high level, it's made of these 4 components. So we are able to take with CoPilot for M365, so that's the licensed version of CoPilot. We are able to take the Microsoft Graph, that's your data, where your data lives. I know Ash went into the importance today of learning exactly where your data sits, and that's important as well. But we are able to take the Microsoft Graph and build it in natively to the M365 apps for your end users to interact. And that's where you actually interact with CoPilot, is in the M365 apps. We're able to couple that with a pre-trained large language model, and up to you all at your organization if you enable web content with that. By default, in the government community environment, we actually disable web, and it's up to you all if you want to enable the web content. But at this foundational level, this is where we're able to put these things together and create a very, very powerful tool. And the first tool that I kind of joke is the inch-in, the toe-in to AI, is CoPilot Chat. So this is rolling out to our government community environments over the next month. I'm super excited to see it land. And what is it exactly? It is a free, secure AI chatbot. So it is a tool that is compliant with those GCC regulations, that is, in its simplest form, just that, just a chat, talking back and forth with a pre-trained large language model. It's actually running on ChatGPT 4.0. We will be building in agents into the chat interface. I'll show you here in the demo how I use agents and where they've come into play in my workday. And they are comprised of the IT controls. And that might be the most important part, that enterprise data protection, meaning that all of the security principles that we are talking about, are in play when users are logged and authenticated into chat. And then how do we step it up? If you haven't seen this slide before, you'll be very familiar with it by the end of the day. But this is where you can actually move to have a licensed version of CoPilot, and we take it beyond just a chat, and we are now interacting with the apps natively. So this is where you can go in and it can recap your meetings for you, it will summarize things for you, it will build your PowerPoint decks or help you draft a budget in Excel. This is where we really take the CoPilot experience to the next level. And this is an eyesore, and I apologize for the folks in the back, but I promise I'll share. But it really shows you in detail where exactly we find and interact with each of these tools. So on the left-hand side, you see this is the entire world search engine for CoPilot. This is the one that takes no required login. You can get the application today and start chatting with CoPilot. The one that the state will provide to you is CoPilot Chat. This is where you're authenticated in, meaning that you can chat about your work data and be protected with that enterprise data protection. And then for your power users who learn CoPilot, love CoPilot, want to use AI in a more efficient manner, this is where you looked at the licensed version on the right-hand side of the screen, the M365 CoPilot. So I'm happy to share this out with you all after, especially for the folks in the back of the room where there's a lot of words and it's a bit of an eyesore. My last slide here before I kind of hop into some of the demoing is this decision tree. Some of the tools that I haven't covered here today is around Azure Foundry, some of Studio as well. However, that part also bleeds into the M365 CoPilot. But based on your use case, my first recommendation to everyone is to look at this decision tree. What are you trying to solve? Where can we define and automate processes? What task are you trying to do? Look at this decision tree and let us help you map how we might solve that problem based on the tools. And it might not be one or the other. It might be a combination. But whatever it might be, this is where I would always start whenever I'm looking at adopting AI or trying to solve a business challenge. Now, the next thing that I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to start us off here on my mobile device. And I apologize because I tested it in Teams and it won't actually let me share my screen, but that's okay because the first I want to show you is actually how I use CoPilot in the day-to-day on that free search engine. And the first thing that I start with is I open up the CoPilot app, and it's okay, you can't see this.
Hey, Anna.
Hi, CoPilot, how are you? CoPilot, can you hear me?
I'm doing good. I hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much, I really appreciate it. CoPilot, so I'm actually presenting right now in the state of North Carolina. And I love my day job, but I'm actually looking to start a side hustle. Recently, I've been creating charcuterie boards for my family and parties. Help me learn about starting a small business in the state of North Carolina.
Sure thing, Anna. North Carolina has some specific steps for setting up a small business. You'll want to start by choosing a business structure, like an LLC or sole proprietorship. Then register your business name with the state and get any necessary licenses or permits.
So what are my first steps for registration?
First, you'll need to choose a unique business name and check its availability. Then decide on your business structure.
Okay, so if I want to focus on branding, can you come up with some catchy taglines for what I might want to call my business? I want something super catchy for my Instagram handle.
Sure. How about Bounty Boards by Anna, Board and Platter Magic, or Anna's Artful Spreads? They're unique, memorable, and hint at the delicious creations you're offering.
Okay,
what do you think?
Thank you, that's a good start. Now I want to chat about something else. I'm in a room full of people, they've been sitting for a while. We need to wake them up. Can you write me a song about the state of North Carolina and sing it back to me?
Let's spark some energy. Here's a lively tune about North Carolina. In North Carolina, where the pines stand tall, from the mountains to the coast, there's a welcome for all. Tall heels and
Thank you, CoPilot. I don't know if I need to hear that number again, but it's a good start. So in my personal life, I use CoPilot all the way, every single day in different ways. I've actually taught my dad, it's now his new favorite thing. He's a history teacher, so when we're driving in the car, he has it plugged up and he'll be like, hey, we just drove by this bridge. CoPilot, tell me about the history of this bridge, and that's how he interacts with CoPilot. But it's funny to see now that I can't get in the car without him chatting. So if you don't have it downloaded, I advise you to do so, and maybe you'll have a chat on the ride home today. Now, when I take it a step further and I start to apply this at work, the first thing that I do is start in CoPilot Chat. So for when we're looking here, however your end users interact with Office. Today I'm in a browser, but it doesn't matter if it's on your machine or wherever they access Office, they'll start to see CoPilot Chat. And there's two things to note here. One, and probably the most important, is that when you get CoPilot Chat, this green shield lights up. And that is that enterprise data protection. It's easy to overlook it. However, that means that I'm logged in, I'm authenticated in, and my organization's having governance around my interactions with CoPilot. So I know I can chat about work data, and it doesn't matter what I say because it's all being retained or it's following whatever policy Microsoft has pushed to me. And then the next thing is that I actually am licensed for M365 CoPilot. So I have that licensed version. So I have the option to talk about work or just against the web. And that's that toggle right there at the top. But say, for instance, I didn't have the licensed version. I wouldn't see that toggle. I would just be talking with the large language model and the web if my organization had enabled it. And this is where I can go in and start asking CoPilot, and I'll make sure that I'm in the web. So if I just had chat, this is something that I would ask. And I had these be on, I'm saving us some time by you all not having to watch me type. I shared with CoPilot, I'm a solutions engineer at Microsoft. I focus on evaluating the value of generative AI in the government. I gave it some criteria, a timeline, inputs, outputs, deliverables, things that I wanted to explore. And then it went through and it started to build this executive summary out for me. So I can go in and it gave me a table of contents, objectives, timeline and project plan, different inputs and outputs, all of those things that I specified. It even pulled use cases for me based on different states in the Eastern United States. So I can go and learn more and chat about those if I'd like to. It also gave me some framework, measurement frameworks, et cetera, and next steps. So a great start here, just in that, again, that first basic line of chat, of just being able to say, here's how I want you to organize things, here's my business problem. I am just towing into AI, how can it help me? And I can do all of that with just the use of the large language model and the web. And maybe that fixed my business need. But maybe I want to take it one step further, and I can toggle over into work. And now, because I've authenticated in and granted it access to my Microsoft graphs and my Microsoft data, it knows my emails, it knows my chats, it knows my calendar. So when you go into web, you can ask it things like, help me summarize, and I can pick a file, and I can go in here, and I can say, help me summarize this program and prep for this meeting. And so I've given it a file, and then I'm actually going to go into my meetings that are on my calendars that are upcoming, and I'll point it to one, and I'll say, this is where we will discuss this program. And so then for me, what it will do, I have a typo right there, but what it will do is actually go in and look at that program summary, that Word document that I gave it, and that upcoming meeting on my calendar for me. And it will start to build out how I can prepare based on what we're going to discuss of the program. So at first, it starts me off by walking me through the summary of the program that we are starting. And then it goes into the actual meeting prep. So I can see who organized the meeting. When is that meeting scheduled? What is the purpose? And what are we focusing on? And then it gave me some suggested talking points. So now I can look at this program and go through the document that was outlined, continue to chat, and be more prepared for my upcoming call. From here, when we look at the use of agentic AI, there's going to be a lot of ways that we can then get even more sophisticated and customized based on my business needs. You can start over in the right-hand rail, and you can just go in and start creating an agent for yourself. This is something that you will all be able to do because trust me, if I can do it, anybody can. It's low code, no code, where you just describe what your business need is, you give it the knowledge source, and then you can chat. And there will be agents that will be pushed out to you, either created from Microsoft or created from your organization or created by a third party. Some examples of this you'll see up here are researcher and analyst. These are two that were created by Microsoft that were recently released. And I have started to use researcher every single day for any upcoming call that I have. And what this is saying is there's actually a trade-off with researcher. Whereas CoPilot and BizChat is actually, we're gonna say, hey, summarize this, give me a high-level summary of it, or give me the key bullets that I need to know. With researcher, what we're saying is, hey, CoPilot, take a pause, really dive into the topic, and with a fine-tooth comb, give me every single detail that you can find on a certain topic. So it generally takes a few minutes to run. It's not that quick, instant answer that you're seeing with the normal chat. It usually takes, I find, about 10 to 15 minutes, depending on how complex my topic is. So I ran an example actually for us before I hopped up here because I figured it might not be the best use of time to watch it generate. But I said, hey, help me prepare for a meeting with the state of North Carolina. And then it asked me some things back, if there's anything that I want to know. And I say, no, just run for me. And then it's able to start to populate this level of granularity for me based on my topic. And if I want to go more complex or dive into a new topic, I can. But it actually walks you through the model's thought process of how it's going about researching. So now, no longer do I go to a normal search engine whenever I'm going about my day-to-day. I'm actually just going into researcher, running it, maybe walking away, and it pulls all of that data for me. So it doesn't only pull from the web, it pulls from internal sources or any extra data sources that I give it access to. And it's able to compile all that information for me right here. And you can see that it goes quite lengthy. But when you actually look through and you start reading some of it, you can start to see, exploring, this next step, exploring the state policy associations, considering, well, Lisa and Anna are linked to the state of North Carolina. Lisa's a teammate of mine where we collaborate very often here in the state. It picked up on that, it knew that, and it started to populate out. That even pulled in different projects that we're working on, as well as research for what legislature has been passed recently, and what project is the state and initiatives are they taking. So a lot more of an in-depth answer. So when we move away from just looking, and I'm keeping a pulse on time, but when we look away from just using CoPilot here in the chat, or maybe in an agent, depending on your specific use case, this is where you can then look at the CoPilot for M365. And it's not just in chat, but now we're gonna look at it natively in the Office applications. So if I hop over into Word here, and for those of you who might have a CoPilot for M365 license, you'll notice that there's some changes to the application by default. No longer do you open up the application and there's a blank document. There's now a prompt box up here at the top for me. So I can go in here and I can just tell CoPilot, ooh, my Zoom. I can tell CoPilot what I would like to draft about. And today, I'm going to tell CoPilot to help me create a policy on the use of AI in the workplace. I gave it, again, those parameters of what I want this policy to look like, and it even suggests how I can make this prompt a little stronger for me. Because again, the prompt engineering becomes very important. So I can take its suggestion, and then I can go over and suggest for it to start running. And here, without me even having to leave my Word, it's gonna start giving me that rough draft of the application, of the policy straight in my Word. So I can go in here, I can read the purpose, the scope, do's and don'ts, approved tools at my organization for AI, ethical considerations and transparency, steps for addressing questions or concerns, reviewing those updates, and a conclusion of my policy. So from a time-saving standpoint, if you were actually tasked this to draft an AI policy for your organization, this draft might have taken you 30 minutes or an hour. Now you are no longer the creator, you are now the editor. So you just hit keep it, and you go in, and now this is the important step to make this policy your own. What pieces of it do you want to keep? What pieces of it do you want to edit? Where can you start applying your own benefits of the tools? Where did CoPilot maybe miss? If I highlight over here, I can again highlight a section, go over to CoPilot, and then it gives me, again, some suggestions of things I either want to change. If I wanted to add a file that was unique to my use case that provides more context, I could do that. Writing suggestions, etc. I'm going to say translate to Spanish. CoPilot supports up to 40 different languages. So then now you can take any of your work and immediately translate it for you right here in your Word application. Extremely helpful if you're developing like an FAQ or publishing something to your website where language barriers might come into play. Here in a matter of a couple seconds, you can just go through and actually now you have that draft for you here in a different language. I can replace it, keep it, and then I can even go up to my ribbon and you'll see the same UI across all of the different applications within Office, where now maybe this was a lengthy document that you already opened. Maybe this was 50 pages and you have a specific question to ask. You can open up CoPilot, ask your question, ask for a summary. Hey, based on this policy that we're releasing, what are some ways that I might communicate it to my organization? Can you help me strategize there? What are some next steps I should take from there? Or I kind of joke, it's eliminated the need of a table of context because you no longer go to, open up a large document and read from there and get a page number and scroll. You can just ask your targeted question here in chat. So you'll see this UI across PowerPoint, Excel, where it's now just populating in your ribbon for your end users to interact. And I didn't mean to close that. The last thing I'll kind of highlight here too is now the ability to switch between copilots in the applications. By selecting this, this ellipse right up at the top, what you're able to do is then pull in your agents that you've created as well. So say, for instance, maybe you create an RFP agent to review and help you draft RFPs. This is where you can access it, and now when you're drafting your next RFP, it will go look at your agent that you've created, look at previous ones that you've done, help you draft from here, and you can switch that CoPilot so it knows what unique subset of knowledge it needs to reason over that's unique to you at your organization. So this becomes a very key piece as well of learning what CoPilot you're talking to. A big piece of the end user adoption I found is that when I first started out, everything I did was immediately by the default setting of what populates when I open it. Then teaching end users, again, over that 6 months to a year, it took me to really ramp on the tool, learning that, hey, it gives me a great draft by default, but it will give me a more advanced one if I know what flavor of the tool I'm in. The last thing I'll leave you on here is I'm going to throw on the screen this QR code. If you all take your phone out and you scan this and you want to learn more about any of the tools that I went over, feel free to drop it in chat and we'll follow up with you. So I really appreciate the time today to review some of that tools, share how I use them, and I would love to continue the conversation. So please scan this, and this will be at all of our end sessions as well. So fill it out and we'll be sure to send you a follow-up so we can chat more. But thank you all, I appreciate it.